Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 5 of Building as We Fly. I am Kirsta Tull, and today you just get me to share my story to becoming self-employed. And last week you had Luke who shared his journey, and hopefully you found it somewhat inspiring. So I'm excited to share my background with you all and just talk about some of the inspiration behind why I've made the decision that I have and, how things are going for me now. So let's just jump into it. Let's just get started. So, my background, I grew up here in Northwest Ohio. We still live in the area. I grew up in Bowling Green, and I grew up from a single parent household. I grew up with my mom. Also have two older sisters that were really supportive as well as I was growing up. But the fact of the matter is that growing up, we were a financially insecure family. My mom did work, full time. She worked really hard to provide for us, but I started working at the age of 14 because I knew that if I wanted a car when I turned 16, that I was going to have to be the one to pay for it. I knew that, my insurance, my gas, if I wanted to go to the movies, any of those sort of things, if I wanted new shoes or whatever, like I was going to have to be the one to save up and do those things. And it's not to say that my mom didn't provide for me where she could. It's just that it was necessary for me to start, working at a very early age. So I think there was a lot of grit and hustle that was ingrained in me when I did, start working. And I was very motivated by this concept of being financially secure. There was also the fact that I worked in restaurants as well. And so how hard you worked, how pleasant you were with your tables, how many tables you had, that sort of thing. That all equated to how much money you were paid also. And so there was just a lot of that was deeply ingrained in me as in regards to my work ethic from a very early age. So I worked in restaurants all throughout high school and college, and then a couple years after college as well. I actually stayed working in restaurants once I did have my full-time job after college to continue making some extra money. And when I was in college, because I was working so much, I didn't have a lot of time for a lot of social things. I was not one of those like kids that went out and partied every weekend. I wasn't in a sorority, but I did get connected to an organization called Dance Marathon. And that organization helped to raise money for a local children's hospital. Because in addition to my motivation to want to be financially secure, I also just have this desire to always help people. I always want to help support someone, even if they don't want it. That's just who I am. You know the Enneagram, I am an Enneagram 2 through and through. That is for sure. So I remember sitting down with our advisor for Dance Marathon my senior year and having a conversation with him. So Denny, if you're listening, I remember this conversation where you said to me, have you ever thought about doing this for a living? And I'm honestly a little embarrassed to admit it now, where I'm like, I didn't even know that you could be in nonprofit and make money as a career after college. It's not really something that the college advisors were talking to you about. I also was an English major, so I think there was a perception that I might go on to teach or something like that. And while I did learn a lot in regards to written communication, critical thinking skills, things like that, that wasn't the path that I wanted to go down. And so I was always really grateful to Denny for that conversation of exploring other options in regards to a career that would actually fulfill me. So my one sister actually got me connected with a temporary fundraising job soon after I graduated, where I jumped in. I learned the ropes of fundraising. I learned what nonprofit work looked like in the Toledo area. And, it just felt like home. It felt like that's what I wanted to do for my career. I really wanted to throw myself into it. And so that temporary role ended. I ended up going to another organization as a volunteer coordinator. So obviously wasn't fundraising in that role, but then the organization that I had left recruited me back to be in fundraising. And so, I was there for the next 11 years. And like I said, it just felt like home. I loved the people I worked with. I connected with so many great people in our community. I learned so much and I loved everything about it. And I worked my way up through the organization, eventually becoming the vice president of development operations. So I oversaw annual campaigns, major donors, engagement, grants, all of the things. Um, and I learned so much. It was wonderful. I was at this organization through COVID, which changed a lot of our experiences, right? We were exposed to what it meant to scale back. So when I talk a little bit about that, desire to like hustle and to like, I found my like worth in how hard I worked, that sort of thing. I think COVID opened my eyes to the fact that I could scale things back a little bit. I could show up for my family a little bit more in a way that I hadn't considered before, because I also think part of that like hustle and grit that was in me, there was this ingrained thought of like, I can do it all. I can show up for my family. I can do the career thing and I can excel in my career and I can get promoted and grow and I can be a great wife and I can keep my household together and like I can do it all and I will do it all. And I'm going to show everyone wrong the things I can't. And then like through COVID and the scaling back and realizing that it could look differently, it just changed my perspective a little bit, right? So then we got pregnant with our fourth child. So we had already, had our 3 kids as I was at that organization, our older 3, been through a few career changes with Luke so that he was closer to home as well. And then we had Theo, our 4th child. And when I went back to work after Theo, it was just very evident. And I am not saying any of this to put down the organization that I was at. I just say all of this to say that our country as a whole, and this is something that I could talk about at length and probably will in another episode, our country as a whole is not set up to help working mothers succeed, period. And when you look at research and data from around the world, and I'm sorry, I'm like shaking the table if you're watching the video. I keep touching the table with my fists because I'm very worked up about this. When you see the supports that are in place for working mothers specifically, and I know there are many other segments that need support when they're going through tough times in their seasons of life, but I'm speaking to working mothers specifically right now. There are countries that provide mothers the opportunity to take a year, 18 months, 2 years off of work to be there for their families, for their newborns, for themselves, because there's so much that goes on with their own body after having a child. And their job is there for them when they come back. And the United States is not set up that way. And, I went back into a role where I was supervising a team. I had a newborn at home. We were getting right back into the really, busy season of work. I felt like I was not showing up as my best self in any of those spaces. And I was trying to make it work and trying to make it work. And I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And then I finally got to a place where I realized I couldn't do it anymore. And I'm getting emotional. Had lots of conversations with Luke. I had lots of conversations with my family, with some of my very best friends. I eventually reached out to some amazing women in my network who I knew had walked away from the full-time, 9-to-5 career job and were doing it differently. And we had coffee, we had lunch, and I was candid with them. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to ask for at work to make this work. I don't know what to do for my family. And I mean, Kate, Jenny, both the Sarahs, you guys really helped me understand that I needed to do what was best for me and my family, first and foremost. And it took me setting aside the ego of, I can do it all and I will do it all, to, I need to just shift how I look at this. And I still want to get fulfillment out of my career and I still want to help people. And I have this desire to show up for myself and show up for my family and my husband and my kids. Like, I need to figure out how to balance it. And one of those women, I remember like clear as day, her just looking at me and saying, Kirsta, if you were to leave that organization and make a change, it will be the best decision you will ever make. And that just hit me so hard. And those conversations are the ones that are everything. At the end of the day, those hard conversations that just hit you in your soul and you don't know that you always need and you don't even know what you're asking for when you have those conversations. Those are the ones that help you to change the trajectory of your life. And I'm so grateful to the people who have supported me through the last year and a half of making those changes. Yeah, it's just been a journey for sure. So that's where when I use the word journey a lot, it's because that's literally like, sometimes I envision myself like with a backpack on, like hiking up the hill because I'm trying to figure this thing out as I go. But when I finally put in my notice, I did give a couple months notice. And so I still had some time that I, could phase out and, that sort of thing. But when I finally put that notice in, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders because I knew that this was giving me the chance to breathe and to show up for myself and show up for my family in the ways that I needed to. And when I did put in that notice as well, I will say, I did not have a plan fleshed out. I just knew I needed to make that call at that time. It was time. And I had conversations with Luke and he was like, we're going to figure this out. If this is what you need to do, I'm behind you. We'll make it work, whatever you do decide to do. And it wasn't until I had put in my notice and I kind of was thinking through things more, after that point that I was like, all right, I'm going to start my own LLC. I'm going to start exploring, nonprofit consulting. And this was also because of having a conversation with one of those ladies I was talking about of like, there is a market for it. And there are people out there who are seeking expertise in the nonprofit field, because I also had a barrier in my own mind as well that, nonprofit people, we're so tight with the purse strings, right? And we're not always willing to invest dollars into something because we're fearful of what that might take away from something else in our budget. And reframing that for myself and not being fearful and trusting myself that things would work out. And so that has, resulted in a couple in-person clients that I have, here locally. It's resulted in a couple virtual clients because I've been able to go online to platforms and been able to help someone out with a GoFundMe campaign that they were launching, or help someone out with a grant that they were writing, or getting a donor solicitation letter together. There's different various projects. And honestly too, in this industry, when you're a 1099 contractor as well, I think there's value to an organization in the fact that they don't have to invest in, payroll taxes and all of the onboarding that comes with, bringing a new employee on and, all of that sort of thing, building it into the budget for years and years. It's not a permanent role. It's more of like, okay, we have this project that really needs tackled. Can we build it into our budget for a couple months or a year and get that approved and then make it work? That sort of thing. So there are more opportunities out there if you let yourself be exposed to them and consider them, I guess is my point. So I started my LLC. Actually, I dedicated myself the first 2 weeks after I was done at my job, I knew I was going to spend some time diving into like setting up my bank accounts and getting everything organized for myself and getting my branding together, my website, and how do people contact me and what's my specialty, and things like that. But also, thankfully, I had some amazing people in my networks who were like, yeah, like we have a project for you. Come alongside us. So I've had some amazing people that trust me, that means a lot as well, to have them show up for me as I step into this and say, yeah, we got your back. Like, let's work together. Let's go. And it's been great. So, also, as I mentioned, things are kind of evolving in my work as well, because like I mentioned, I think the very first episode, I'm about 50% nonprofit consulting right now, but I'm also now really supporting Luke's company as he has grown and stepped into his tech business, which that was not originally the plan. When I left my job, Luke had no plans of becoming self-employed at that point. I was planning to just go full-fledged into my nonprofit business at the time. But as his business has grown, there's huge demand for what he does in his work. And I'm supporting him in different ways in the business as well. And so it's been an interesting journey. We're building it as we fly, as we say, and just taking it as it comes. And we'll see how this all continues to play out. But that's been another huge like revelation for myself, is to just trust that we're doing what feels right, taking things as they come. We don't have to have a 5-year plan. 6 months it feels good. We've kind of been taking it 6 months at a time and saying, we'll reassess in 6 months and kind of see where we're at, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the mode we're operating under right now. And that could change, maybe in a year, we're going to say like, okay, we do need to nail down a 5-year plan. We got to figure this out. But right now we're just doing the thing and making it work the best that we can for ourselves and our family. And not to go down another like total tangent, but I can just tell in my kids and in my marriage and my friendships, that my family relationships, I'm able to show up better now that I feel like I'm not stretched so thin. And those are the people that matter the most to me. And those are the relationships that I want to be able to focus on and spend time on. And I can do that now. I can spend time with my kids, picking them up early from school and joking around in the car and have the music blaring when they get in, and not feel so stressed out because I'm actually on a call and like, I need to take this call right now and you guys need to be quiet, and, that sort of thing. So I can define what my schedule looks like, figure out what works best for us, and just show up for the people that matter most in the ways that matter most. So I will wrap myself up there. I appreciate all of you tuning in and listening to how I got to where I am today. And I just really hope that you stick alongside us as we continue to share. We're excited to start interviewing some other entrepreneurs that we're connected to, because there's some people out there in different industries that have really different perspectives as well, that I think will be valuable to some of the people that listen. And if you or someone might be a good fit to be interviewed, feel free to reach out to us as well. And we just appreciate your likes, subscribes, shares, comments, all the things. And we hope to see you soon. All right. Have a great day, everyone. This is Building as We Fly.